Hello everyone. In this video I wanted to discuss the challenges and the setup of starting a container garden. So as you know, my whole backyard has containers and they're just filled with vegetables. Now the easiest way I think to start a container garden is to start your seeds indoor, and also to use these. You can get these things out here. So this is a peat pod, and these things are little expandable peat moss pods. You soak them in water and then you plant your seeds in them, and you can start them indoors under a grow light. You can get a grow light for pretty cheap, 35 bucks or so. I'll leave a link in the description to a couple of websites, and I'll also leave a link in the description for the peat pods. So here I have planted some cucumbers, and I have various pepper plant species. I should have labeled them. I did not. So I think I'm going to get a little surprise, or we're all going to get a surprise at the house when we bite into our peppers. And then I have one, I believe this is a ground cherry, I'm not sure, but after they get a certain size, what I go ahead and I do is I go ahead and put them outside, and I put them on the side of the house. So it's all about utilizing every square inch you can, really. So the side yard we use for little seedlings that we're trying to harden off, but the weather's been so good it's kind of like a built-in nursery outside. Okay, let's take a little trip to the other section here. So you can see our red romaine lettuce is just doing really well. This is about to, actually this has started to bolt too. I'm gonna have to cut that back. Now my transplant for my atomic grape tomato is doing pretty good. I went ahead and transplanted it last week. I added some good soil to this pot that I have it in here. And then I went ahead and added some worm castings, and then did a little bit of worm seed, just a tiny bit of that, and it seemed to just take off. So this will grow pretty well. I'm trying to let it dry out a little bit. These pots are not Smart Pot or Grow Bag container pots, so they retain more moisture, and the tomatoes like it a little dry and a little sandy. Just a side note, so I won't water it today or probably even tomorrow. It looks like it's got enough water. And the way you can test your plants to see if they have enough water is you go ahead and you just test the soil, and you just kind of do this number here, and you can tell if the soil is either damp or if it's dry, and just use your judgment. Obviously if you see your plant stressed, especially with this heat, go ahead and get a shade cloth and cover it up, or if it's small, bring it into the house. Don't let it sit in the sun, and give it some water. It's plants are, vegetables are living beings, or living organisms, so we have to keep them happy. This is my mint here. This is doing very well. I actually love to take this mint and harvest it, put it in some 64-ounce jars with some cucumbers and strawberries, and put it in the refrigerator, leave that overnight, and in the morning drink that with some lemon, and you have a healthy morning drink to start with. And here are some cherry tomatoes. I don't know what the species is called, but they taste really good. And I also had an issue with this plant. Not a major one, but it was the powdery mildew. And the way I solved that was I went ahead and I just trimmed the powdery mildew back. The ones that had the leaves, I trimmed them off. I threw them away. You don't want to add them to compost or to to your back soil or anything, because they're contaminated. You want to throw them away. And I just lightly sprayed with a little bit of peppermint spray, like mostly all water, a light peppermint, because if it's too much, I learned my lesson. I had actually burnt this mint. I sprayed it with so much peppermint because I had like all these little holes in it once, that I actually burned it, and all the leaves fell off of it. I thought it was completely dead, and I managed to nurse this back to health. So just one way to kind of learn your lesson there. So don't use too much of anything. It has to be balanced. And I did consult a couple friends on that. And we have our pepper plant here. That's doing well. Another pepper plant. Then kale. I just kind of threw this together. I put some kale and planted a bunch of, I just threw seeds in here. Literally threw seeds in all these containers and just said to nature, have at it. And they just started growing. So, but I do more than that. I do take care of them, and I do add, the necessary fertilizer. Here we have some lettuce, and here we have some sage. Let's just go to back here. So my back forest garden, my forest container garden, so my containers are back here. Doing pretty well. Was not expecting this squash to be yellow, but I guess it's a yellow banana squash. Got a surprise there. And that's doing pretty well. Then our eggplant. Wow. Nurse that back to health. No worms on it or anything. It's a Japanese species, the Nagasaki. I hope I pronounced that right. I'll go back and look it up. And we have these tomatoes are very sweet. I don't know what they are. There's some type of cherry, again, some type of cherry tomato. And they turn this like dark yellowish orange color, really good. And I have some pear tomatoes in the back, but can't really see them. Let's go like this. So like right in here. Actually, yeah, they're right in here somewhere. Some pear tomatoes. There's one. It's kind of bushy. So we have those, and we have another pepper plant here. We have our cucumber. So peppers, I've noticed that peppers, they do well in sets or by themselves completely. I planted these two outside about a week ago, and they're already thriving, they're already growing, getting taller. I had this idea that I wanted to do pepper plants and tomatoes next to each other. Not a good idea. They just don't like each other. Tomatoes like borage, and they like basil. So those are like companion plants, and I'll get into that in another video about planting companion plants. What I did here with this Marzano tomato, which I grew this all from seed, this San Marzano, and it's not really in a big container. I should have put it in a larger container. That's the mistake I made. I wish I would have used a 20-gallon container for this guy, but I didn't. But it's still growing healthy, as you can see. So you can have it in a small container. Your plant will be maybe a little bit more stressed, and it may require a little bit more water, but it still will work. And I had some purple opal basil growing with that in this container. And these are the Smart Grow Bags. You can pick them up on Amazon.com. I'll leave a link to these as well. I mean, you can get these anywhere really, but I just find it a lot easier to order from Amazon, especially if you have a Prime membership account. The shipping's free, and it's pretty cheap to get the bags. I mean, these days having it shipped from Amazon is relatively an easy process. Then I have this Atomic tomato that I planted over on this side of the yard. And this one seems to be doing a lot better, or it seems to be growing a lot faster, I should say, than the other one I have planted in the patio. I think it's because it's in full direct sunlight in the middle of the yard pretty much the whole day. So that's a really cool thing. I love tomatoes. I have a 10-gallon pot full of lettuce. Okay, so I'm going to move this to a part shady, part sun area, because this type of lettuce does not like direct sun, or does not do well in direct sun. I noticed the red romaine, the real robust, thick lettuce, now that tends to do very well in direct sunlight. With these guys, they have the tendency to wilt, but it's not an unhealthy plant or lettuce bush. It's totally safe. I also noticed the best time to harvest your lettuce is when the weather's cool or in the early morning hours. Otherwise, it gets kind of flimsy later on. You'll notice it gets flimsy. And my sad spinach, I'm going to repot that as well. Okay, let's go over here. We have the watermelon. This is my watermelon that I started weeks ago, and it's doing very well. I fertilize it every week, and it loves the fertilizer. I water these a little bit more than my other containers, and that's because it's a watermelon. It's going to need a lot of water. Plus, due to the fact that you are restricting your plant to a contained environment, realize that you're going to need to water it more, okay? And species of plants that have large gourds or melons, you're going to have to soak them, okay? Especially in this heat, you're going to have to make sure they get water. If you put one of these containers on the patio, you're going to have to put a tray underneath it. So these containers are available anywhere. You would grab one of these containers here. You know, you would add your seed, your potting soil, and then your seed, and then water, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I see people trying to get fancy with this stuff, and really, you know, you can just go overkill, and you don't really need to. You just need to be balanced and patient, and start off with seeds that are easy, or even start off with the seed kit. I'll leave a link in the description of this video for a startup seed kit that you can get, like a salsa garden collection or something like that, that you can get along with your grow bags. And then all you have to do is just add potting soil, basically, and some compost or mulch and some fertilizer, and there you go. You have a easy container garden. It's really, really simple. I will be doing a more detailed video on this in the future. I will actually show you my process, what I do, and how I actually transplant my seedlings into a container. Until next time, thank you. Bye.